The E100 and VK72 are both very strong Tier 10 German super heavies, featuring fantastic frontal protection, a lot of hit points, big alpha guns, and honestly are just fantastic vehicles. A couple of years ago, I made a comparison video showcasing both of these tanks, which I like better, and their overall capabilities, and we are going to be doing that again for today's video, as I think it's time for an upgrade. There have been many changes to the VK, the E100's changed a lot as well, and I feel like both of these tanks have kind of gone on their own arc, and that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to start off with, let's do the E100. I think this tank's an absolute blast to drive. The E100 has gone up in alpha. It went from 640 to now it's very high 680. That's enough to scare anybody away from you, even autoloaders. That hits hard. If you get an HE out, you deal 1,020 damage. Not only does this vehicle have a lot of damage per shot, but it also features an insane amount of hit points at 2,900. Now, to be fair, if you're running enhanced armor, it's 2,700, but I personally like to have more HP, just because I can see the change rather than having armor. Now, the E100 armor is pretty good. Wargaming buffed the turret probably about 2 years ago now, and the turret buff is really what made this tank strong. It's always been this great vehicle at just driving into the front line, bonking, but usually it was more of a trading vehicle where you would bonk them, they would shoot you back, and then you'd probably lose about half the health, but because you have so much HP, you'd still kind of win the trade overall. Now, the U100 actually has a lot of turret armor. It's about 330 mils base, which means that a TVP or a Super Conk, if he's running rammer, the STB, all are going to struggle to penetrate this vehicle's turret. Now, the tank destroyers are obviously going to cut right through, so the Hori, 183, and Jagdpanzer, they're just going to butter my armor like nothing exists. But it's still very nice that this vehicle has pretty solid armor. The downside of the E100 is that it has an 18-second reload. You could run rammer on it, but I don't know why you would, because you're only shaving about a second or so off the reload, and in return, you're losing a very large portion of that penetration you're going to need when going up against, obviously, other frontline heavies. So personally, I keep the pen, as I always do. We are going to be making our way up towards this enemy AMX 50B. We're going to see if this 50B allows us to get a bonk out. And you're going to see just where this tank slaps. There you go, 668 damage into that player. And he's already down about half of his health now. That's kind of insane. And even though we got shot, I mean, we still have 2,500 health left. This is where the E100 just is kind of ridiculous, because it has so much HP that you don't really care if you get bled a bit. I mean, we've already done 1,200 damage this game. The 50B is dead on their team. Appears to have played way too aggressive on the side of the map he's at. Now, we have an AFK Hori, and I will take every single advantage I can of that player because I hate Horis. I don't want that player to come back. So we're going to get a nice bonk into his vehicle. You'll notice something weird, and that is, even though this vehicle features a very inaccurate gun, it surprisingly hits a lot of the shells you shoot with it. That's one thing I've always noticed about the 100. It seems to always hit the shots you shoot. There you go. Easy bonk right into the Jagdpanzer. See, we're already up to 2,300. And yeah, the vehicle might not have a lot of DPM, but you don't really need that much when all you're doing is shooting once every 20 seconds or so, getting a bonk out, reloading, doing it all again. So the 183 just gets a massive shell into that player there. We have the STB off to the side, and as much as I would love to shoot that STB, does not look like that's going to be happening all too right now. We got the Yag, he's side on to us, and there you go, a 703 chunk into his vehicle. And that just brought the Yag from 1,700 HP to 900. That is a huge chunk of HP off of his vehicle. At this point, the Jagdpanzer's done. And really, their whole team is done as well. Oh, imagine if that had hit. That would have been kind of insane. Alright, well, at this point, all that's left is the enemy STB. The STB is pushing the FE-Tune 5B183, but he's kind of bitten off more than he can chew. We are going to push the STB as well. We're going to see if we can get some damage out into his vehicle. So that's exactly what we're going to do right now. Let's see. The STB makes a very, very aggressive poke and loses 753 to a bonk from our tank. We basically bled no damage this game, and we get a nice 160 ram into the STB, which is good because we're not going to get any more out, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there you go. So this is the E100. It hits hard. It's got a lot of HP. It's got a lot of armor. And that's it. I mean, it's just a chunker. You shoot people, you back up, you reload, and you do it all again. You have so much HP that even if you do bleed a lot, you still usually have enough to get the job done. I try to bleed as little as possible, but I also try to take shots for the team because that's your job as a super heavy. So this game we ended up dealing 4,000 damage, which was obviously a pretty solid result. We were able to support our team, get some early shots out into that 50B, which was very important, and in the end, come out with a pretty solid victory. Now we move on to the VK72. This tank is kind of nutty. Right now, it's probably one of the strongest tier 10s in the game. It features improved suspension, which gives it a traverse speed of 32 degrees a second, which is kind of insane. It's got a good average speed of 28. I mean, this is a super heavy, and it can drive faster than you would think, which is kind of ridiculous. It also has tungsten rounds, which means you can roll people for about 670 damage per shot. Basically the same as the E100. The difference is this vehicle has a much faster reload. We can take a look, and instead of having an 18-second reload, you have a 14.6-second reload. So that's quite a bit less. Your average damage is nice. It's 600. It's a very big bonk, but it's nothing crazy. It's what the 60 TP used to have. It's got a lot of pen, and its accuracy, well, it hasn't gotten any better. So in terms of the accuracy, you're very similar to the E100. You hit a little bit less, but you've got way more DPM. Well, our first game in the VK72 was rather unfortunate. 3,580 damage dealt. We had a 0 in the E4. We had 300 damage in the AMX. Yeah, just not a great team overall. There's nothing you can do about bad teammates, though. So we're just going to go into another game here and see if the VK72 can do a bit. I mean, the VK did fine, so I'm not going to say if the VK can do better. Let's just hope my team does better. That's really all I can say. Now, personally, I do like the VK72 more than the E100. I really like the E100, though. That's not saying that the E100 is bad. The gun is great on that vehicle. It hits hard, and it's super enjoyable to drive. But the VK has more DPM, and with the lower alpha damage, it means that you can get more shells out if you are in a problematic situation. So in that regard, I definitely enjoy driving this tank more, just because, I mean, I'd much rather be in a situation where I'm able to hold a bit better. It does have less HP. We're at 2,700 instead of 2,900, and I am running sandbags on this vehicle, so that is something to keep in mind as well. We got our 5A, and hopefully he doesn't go to medium side. I'm going to be pushing right to the middle ramp, but there he goes. Very, very annoying. That's, yeah, very, very annoying. Well, we'll see what I can do, but I am missing a lot of support that I need on heavy side, which is really bad, because they have a Jagdpanzer, they have a T-30, they got a lot of big bonkers, which is obviously something that's a bit scary. We have the M48 Patton off to the side. Can't get a shell into him just yet. Well, if he pokes again, maybe I'll go for it. Let's see. Oh, never mind, we got a Jag right in front of us, aiming, bonk, there you go. Nice 542 damage shell into the Jagdpanzer. Unfortunately, it looks like our 5A, who decided he was going to drive his heavy to medium side, has already lost about 1,300 hit points. Not a great result from him so far. Okay, well, we're going to move up here. And let's see, the Jag shot. And I'm going to try and take advantage of that. We're just going to push up. We're going to put on our tungsten. We're going to get a nice 680 damage shell into his vehicle. However, in return, we're going to lose a lot as well. I need my team to move up. Will they? Probably not. But if they do, this could be a very easy win. What are you going to do, guys? What are you going to do? Please, just support me a bit. Or don't. You know, that works too, I guess. Help me. Alright, well, we'll see what happens here. We got the 777, who we do get a nice bonk into. The grill actually moved. All that 268V4 has to do is push the Jag and get him cleared. That's all he has to do. But, will he? Well, I guess we're going to find out. Nope, he doesn't. That's really, really disappointing, to be honest. We're going to aim it on the grill. Get a nice HE into his lower plate. We do get penned, though, for 700, which is a little disappointing. However, this is what the VK is meant to do. It's got all this HP for a reason, and you want to hold your opponents to the best of your abilities in this tank. So we're going to aim it on the 777. There you go. Nice 500 damage roll right into his vehicle. Not bad. The 268V4 gets penned. All our team had to do was literally clear that Jag, and this game would have been 10 times easier. But for some reason, they allowed the Jag to still be alive. So That's really disappointing, to be honest. Either way, the Yag will be dead in a moment here, but, well, it doesn't look like it's going to make much of a difference. Let's see, we got the T-30 all the way in the back, and we get a nice shell into the T-30, but in return, we get shot by everybody else. We've done a really solid result here, though. We're up to a lot of damage. We have the grill on our rear. We have the Yag on our tank as well. We're going to aim it on the... Ooh, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. That was a big old slap-a-rooney there. We're going to back on up, and we're going to keep on backing up, but it doesn't make a difference. If our V4 had just sent the Yag right at the beginning, had gotten him cleared while I pushed him in and held off those guys, we would have been fine. But instead, for some reason, the V4 said, I'm going to just do nothing, and because of that, it was a pretty big loss immediately. I mean, our 5A also went to medium side and then did 0 damage, which would have been big help on the heavy flank if he had been there. I mean, I don't know what to say. 5,800 damage dealt, and unfortunately, it was a defeat. We did get a pretty solid chunk of that damage from an ammo rack on the TNHVZ. Well, not a solid chunk. We got about 1,000 extra damage from the ammo rack that we wouldn't have dealt, but that still would have been 4,800 damage. There's not much you can do when these are the teams you're given every battle with the skill-based matchmaking. But, oh well. I personally think the VK72 is insane, and we saw that in this gameplay here. The armor worked enough, and the gun hit hard, and we were able to get out damage in every situation we were stuck in. The tank, I didn't feel really compromised at all in that game. It was just that everybody else fell out around us, and we couldn't hold any longer because we literally just got surrounded by 3 vehicles. So I think the VK72 is better than the E100. I think the E100 is fantastic as well. If you want a vehicle that could just brute force through your opponents, then this is better. If you want a vehicle that's going to more hold, get bonks out, and focus on getting out damage, then I think the VK is the way to go. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.